Rockport is back, everybody. Welcome. I hope you're all having a wonderful day. I'm Tim Meister, and I'm really happy to bring you this brand new episode of the City of Rockport. It's been a hot minute since we've booted up the old City Skylines 1 save, but it's nice to be back in Rockport once again. And in today's episode, we're going to be building a beach resort area. So I've had this planned for basically ever, even before I actually started this city. I always imagined there being kind of a beach area in this place, and with a little bit of terraforming here and a little bit of sand placement. Here we are, and we have a beautiful beach already. So kind of strange jumping back into City Skylines 1. Now we have to deal with some water physics. So unlike in City Skylines 2, when you adjust the terrain near waters, there is always a potential for some pretty impressive flooding. And as well as the sand placement is much different in City Skylines 1, rather than it being a kind of zone that you shape yourself, it acts more like a brush, which I actually kind of prefer in this case. So it gives you kind of a perspective jumping back into City Skylines 1 after all this time. If you've taken a long break from City Skylines 1 and totally moved on from City Skylines 2, I highly suggest you boot back up into the first game and just kind of see how things have changed. But yeah, there's definitely some elements that I still really enjoy from City Skylines 1, such as the terrain placement. You can see that the beach texture actually kind of blends in with the environment. And on top of that, we have our sprites, which I really enjoy. I wish we had sprites in City Skylines 2. And for those who don't know, sprites are like this little grass texture that's on the ground. And overall, I feel like the ground just has more rich texture, more variety. I don't know, there's just a little more liveliness to it. So hopefully these sort of things will come in the future to City Skylines 2. I know there was mention of kind of texture blending and maybe some of that kind of stuff. But anyways, enough comparison between Cities 2 and 1. We're in Cities 1 today, and we're going to be working on this beach resort area. So for the first little while in this episode, we're going to get our road set up. So of course we have to connect everything together, and with this being across the pond from downtown, we are basically starting from scratch. We only have this highway running through here, and we're going to tap into this highway to provide the road connections for our beach resort area. And then we'll get into building a little bit later on this episode. One thing I will say though, that I prefer in City Skylines 2 by a mile are the road tools. The road tools are just, they're perfect. Well, perfect is a stretch, but they're just so much better in Cities 2. It's such a massive upgrade, especially with the lane-based system now in Cities 2. It just makes highways so much easier. And with the final road puzzle pieces being placed together, we're now ready to get started on the actual build of this episode. And with this being kind of a resort village within the city of Rockport, we're going to explore our hotels menu from the Hotels DLC. And there's a whole list of really great hotel and resort-ish buildings in this pack, some of which are not really going to be functional because in order to attract visitors to these hotels, they need to be within certain conditions. So some hotels may desire lots of nature surrounding them, others may require lots of shopping opportunities, so lots of commercial, and others are more catered towards business. So I'm sure a lot of you are probably familiar with this DLC as it's been out for a while now. But only but one of the hotels that we're going to plop in this episode are truly going to be in an ideal spot, which was the little marina that I plopped just a second ago. So we're really just going for an aesthetic build in this episode. We're going form before function in this one. So I'm not really following any particular style. I've drawn some inspiration from the Vegas Strip, I will say. So of course you have just lines of hotels with casinos and all kinds of events on one main strip. So it's kind of the same concept here in Rockport. We have a lineup of hotels, but in this case we're right by the beach. So there's going to be a lot of beach themed amenities around. So it's going to be very nice, very touristy spot here in the city. There's going to be kind of like a warm-ish climate going on, lots of palm trees, things like that. And then here, exploring some of my commercial menus, I noticed that there's a lot of Art Deco style buildings, which I think fit pretty good in this area if we draw a little bit of inspiration from Miami, more specifically South Beach, you know, with all the Art Deco buildings literally on the beach, just like we're building here. So kind of gives off that same kind of vibe. What I'm going to do here is I have a lot of beach themed buildings in Old Town that I thought would fit absolutely perfectly within the resort area, but I couldn't find them for the life of me in my ploppables menu. So I decided to just literally copy paste all of this, and we're going to have a kind of a copy mini historic district within this area. So we're gonna have some beach themed clubs right on the water, you know, some little oceanside pubs, you know, things to attract tourists and locals who are just looking for a good night out on the town. And then of course, with all of these places being right on the beach, we're gonna decorate them all nice, provide some parks and plenty of walking opportunities, nice trails, things like that. We're gonna spend quite a bit of time detailing all of this build here today. Beautiful. We have this lovely beachside bike path set up. Very reminiscent of maybe Santa Monica Beach near Los Angeles in Santa Monica. Very reminiscent of Miami as well. It gives off those same kind of vibes. So now we're going to work on the functionality side of things. So we're going to provide water and electricity to the area. And in just a moment here, we're going to get into zoning. So much of the city has been hand plopped, apart from just a few residential locations surrounding downtown. But I would say the majority of the city, probably like 75% of it, is totally hand plopped. And for some areas, I'm going to shy away from the hand plopping just because it's so time consuming, and not every area in the city needs to be high priority, super like detailed builds. This area is kind of like half and half. Like, I just want the strip to be really well detailed and really nice. Whatever goes on in the back, in between all the little nooks and crannies, is not super important. So for any areas like this, I will be zoning in. However, some areas I may zone in with a particular theme in mind, such as the mountain village that we built, I think last episode. I can't even remember now because it's been so long. But that build, we had the kind of mountain theme going on, so I made sure to include very specific buildings. But in this case, I'm just going to keep everything more or less generic. And I say that, and here I go hand plopping some businesses. Residential is usually fine. Most of the houses that spawn in are totally fine. If you limit their level, because some of like the higher level homes aren't quite nice. They have like this futuristic look, which I don't really like. Commercial is much trickier though, because there is some commercial buildings that don't look very realistic and just aren't aesthetically pleasing that can spawn in very frequently. So commercial areas you can be a little bit more picky with, but in my opinion, with just zoning residential areas, most of the homes that spawn in are totally fine in any kind of build. So this huge hotel here that we're dealing with, this reminds me of the Luxor in Las Vegas. So it just, I don't know, it's kind of triangle shaped, not really like a pyramid, but it kind of resembles it. And much like a lot of resorts in Vegas, the grounds around them are really impressive. You know, you have like beautiful hedges and nice landscaping, things like that. So in just a moment here, I'm gonna make a kind of effort to make this look nice and blend in with the surrounding environment. But first, what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna plop in some luxury residences. So with this being a very high profile area, you know, nice beaches and all that kind of stuff, it attracts some very wealthy citizens who want to move into this area. So I'm gonna add lots of luxury homes, condo towers, beachfront properties, those kinds of things. And in just a minute here, I'm going to be building some Hollywood Hills kind of areas where you have a bunch of squiggly roads and luxurious mansions propped up on a hill. So it's going to look really, really cool. Now, at this point, I'm kind of pondering whether or not to keep this massive hotel. It's absolutely huge, and it is a bit disproportionately huge for this area. So in the end, I decided to demolish it, and instead, I was gonna make like a mini, you know, South Beach, Miami kind of build instead. So we have a main street that lines the beach, and along this main street is just a bunch of bars and clubs and more Art Deco kinds of buildings. So I thought that was gonna be a better fit than a huge, massive hotel. I really like the style of it. I thought it fit in quite well, but if it was just a bit smaller, I think it would have worked better, but it just eclipsed everything around it, and it kind of ruined the build, in my opinion. And we already are dealing with a really tight constraint here, with the highway being not very far offshore. It leaves us with a very tight spot to build, and I don't know, it didn't feel right. But looking back now, I think this was a good decision to remove that huge hotel and instead build this mini main street, we'll call it. Yeah, it just fits so well, it just works. And then in behind some of these historic buildings are going to be modern condo buildings that are sort of facing the water. So the residents living in the back of these buildings would get a nice water view, so long as you're higher than the buildings in front. And then we're going to include some more taller buildings in behind. More luxurious condo buildings. Most of the high-rise buildings in this episode are plopped, just because I'm a little picky, because these buildings stand out a bit more than low-density residential, so I was looking for a particular theme, and I decided that plopping these buildings would fit better. But that's pretty much it, guys, as far as the build goes. We're just going to add some final little touches on our build here today, such as walking trails in the Hollywood Hills. I don't know what to call this area in particular, but we'll come up with a name here. But for now, we'll just call it the Hollywood Hills. And in just a moment, we're gonna finalize some final details, such as trees in between a lot of these homes, just to provide them all with a little bit more privacy, maybe a little bit of noise abatement from the highway. And I'm just gonna add a couple details to the actual beach as well, just to make it look a little bit more lively, such as parasols and chairs and small details, just to give the impression that the beach is actually functional. I could, in theory, put some invisible paths to have some people walking around, but the whole premise of this series is to be as mod-free as possible, using only vanilla assets and just a handset of very basic essential mods. So I don't want to stray from that, so the beach isn't going to be quite as lively as one would expect, but I'm going to add a ton of props here, so from afar it'll look absolutely fantastic. And that's going to pretty much wrap it up for this episode, guys. So really excited to be jumping back into City Skylines 1. I'm still committed to continuing Rockport and actually finishing the city, although it's going to go for quite some time because I have a ton of cities to work to finish. But like I said, totally committed to continuing this series for all the City Skylines 1 fans. So guys, thanks so much for watching. Really appreciate you guys, and hopefully you appreciated this episode. And if you did, don't forget to smash that like button. Don't forget to subscribe if you enjoy my content in general as well. Consider becoming a patron or a YouTube member. Thanks again, guys, for watching. Take care, and I'll catch you in the next video.